Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are going to unpack a truly fascinating corporate case study that plays out almost like a workplace thriller. We're going to break down how a seemingly minor technical glitch, literally just a single blinking light on a lobby screen, ended up blowing the lid off a much deeper, systemic issue with accountability and corporate cover-ups. We're looking at a scenario that tests the absolute limits of workplace transparency. It shows us exactly what happens when an organization tries to turn real, hard-hitting accountability into mere corporate decoration. If you've ever dealt with office politics, questionable audit trails, or the eternal battle between actual truth and a polished corporate narrative, this is going to be incredibly relevant. It's a masterful lesson in how toxic cultures operate, and more importantly, how you can systematically dismantle their excuses. So, let's get right into it. Our story begins early in the morning, at precisely 8:11 a.m., and it's anchored perfectly by this incredibly sharp observation from the company's strategy lead, Maya Carter. She said, "The dangerous documents never look dangerous first." Now, to give you some context on why this matters, this particular company had recently gone through a major cultural reset. As part of this, they instituted what they called a memory wall, governed by a memory charter. The whole idea was to ensure public accountability and completely prevent the quiet erasure of past mistakes. It was supposed to be a new era of transparency. Everyone wanted the office to feel safe, and naturally, people just assumed the shiny new system had fixed everything. But here's the reality, and I'm sure you know this. True reform isn't proven by putting up a shiny new policy or a fancy display screen. It's tested by the first ordinary, incredibly boring-looking object that nobody wants to explain. The real threats to a company's integrity almost never arrive with a warning label. They look like routine paperwork. And that brings us to the exact moment of the anomaly itself. The company's memory wall was designed to be a completely silent, entirely stable record of truth. No flashing lights, no pop-ups, just facts. But suddenly, at 8:11 a.m., before most people have even had their first cup of coffee, one seemingly boring, highly administrative record on that wall starts blinking red. It's a tamper alert. Now, if you're an outsider or just an employee walking through the lobby, a blinking light might not seem like a big deal at all. You'd probably just assume it's an IT glitch. But to the company's internal audit team, this sudden alert on a supposedly locked historical record signals the immediate beginning of a tense, high-stakes investigation. It's the visual representation of a digital system literally raising its hand and saying, "Hey, someone is messing with the locked archive." That kicks off Section 1, the symptom versus the official diagnosis. Let's look at how the company initially tried to sweep this under the rug. Whenever an unexpected alert or a potential crisis happens in an office, toxic corporate cultures rarely panic out in the open. They don't run around screaming. Instead, they do something much more insidious. They rush to provide a sanitized, highly technical excuse to avoid any actual scrutiny. They use soft corporate language, words like alignment, healing, business continuity, or optimization, to quickly pave over the problem before anyone can ask questions. In this case, the official corporate explanation was incredibly smooth, deeply technical, and totally dismissive. The official line was, "Facilities says the alert is only a display sync issue after the lobby screen update." I mean, it sounds perfectly harmless, right? It's just a glitch. Move along, nothing to see here. But the actual symptom, the underlying undeniable truth, was that a hidden status change had actively downgraded a corrected record, quietly burying it into a historical context file where it would basically be ignored forever. So you have this brilliant tension. The official diagnosis is just optics and spin, but the reality is a deliberate, quiet manipulation of the workflow designed to erase an uncomfortable truth. So how do you pierce through that thick layer of official corporate fog? Well, you need someone who is willing to look exactly where no one else does. Enter Operations Coordinator Sofia Lane. Now, Sofia has a specific advantage here. She is just new enough to the company to still believe that the rules are actually meant to be followed and read. While everyone else is just accepting the display sync issue excuse, Sofia completely bypasses the official narrative. She goes straight into the digital basement. She starts digging into the fine print, the metadata, the routing notes, and the hidden owner fields. She investigates the exact parts of the record that 99% of people just scroll right past. Sofia proves that reading the fine print is literally your absolute best defense when a toxic culture tries to gaslight you into believing everything is fine. She starts asking the highly specific, data-driven questions that the old guard considers incredibly inconvenient. Which brings us to Section 2, building the proof map. Because once you find the breadcrumbs, you have to follow the system. Asking tough questions, however, isn't quite enough on its own. When you are challenging polished executives, PR teams, and internal reputation managers, you absolutely cannot rely on your opinions or your gut feelings. You have to rely on cold, hard systems. Strategy lead Maya Carter knows this better than anyone, and her exact methodology for handling this relies on building what she calls a proof map. It's a brilliantly simple but totally bulletproof four-step process. Step 1, track the object itself. Where did the file go? Step 2, identify the owner. Whose credentials moved it? Step 3, verify the timestamp. Exactly when did this happen? And step 4, the most crucial one, pinpoint the beneficiary. Why was it moved? Maya knows that guilty people will deny things all day long. But records, when placed in a strict chronological sequence, begin speaking long before anyone is forced to confess. By building this exact map, she establishes a completely clean, undeniably straight path from the action directly to the owner. And she does this before any executive can dismiss her findings as just administrative clutter or a misunderstanding. But here's the thing. Maya doesn't build this map alone. It takes a highly collaborative, almost Avengers-style team effort to completely uncover the truth. Each team member brings a completely different, indisputable piece of evidence to the table. You've got Nina Ross, an executive assistant, who brings in the background calendar records and the quiet routing trails. Then you have Jordan Price, the IT audit specialist, who translates the raw system logs and access records. And notice, there's no cinematic hacker magic here. Nobody is furiously typing green code into a mainframe. It's just pure sequence and access records. Then, of course, you have Sofia Lane, bringing in the hidden fine print and metadata. Finally, Maya Carter takes all these disparate pieces and synthesizes them into that comprehensive system map. This is exactly what a record-first culture actually looks like in practice. It's a group of people, backed by systems, absolutely refusing to let one person stand alone against the immense pressure of corporate executives. And the core philosophy driving this entire team is captured perfectly in this quote from executive assistant Nina Ross. People forget that background work still has foreground records. This is such a profound insight. Executives often suffer from this delusion that if they quietly change a status, or delete an email, or bury a file in a subfolder, it's just gone. But invisible work, like a secretly booked conference room, a quiet calendar invite sent at 9 p.m., a visitor log, or even a printed draft left on a copier, always leaves a trail. The people who treat administrative tasks as invisible completely forget that the software systems tracking that invisible work actually see absolutely everything. Every keystroke is logged, and that digital footprint is exactly what exposes a cover-up. Now we enter Section 3, the room shrinking question. This is where things get really tense. So, armed with Jordan's raw IT logs proving a sequence of deliberate, manual changes, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that this was not a simple display sync issue, the team heads into a formal review. And almost immediately, this review devolves into classic corporate theater. The executives realize they are cornered, so they start softening their verbs. They start talking about miscommunications and opportunities for growth. Some even start offering veiled career advice to the audit team, which we all know is just corporate speak for drop this if you want to keep your job. That is the exact moment when analyst Aisha Morgan steps up and completely stops the room dead in its tracks by asking one singular, devastating question. Who benefits if this stays classified as harmless? It is an absolutely brilliant tactical move. She cuts right through the pleasantries and forces the conversation away from the mood of the room and right back to the hard facts. She demands that the corporate fog be replaced with an actual name. Naturally, the immediate pushback from the executives is that digging into this issue is going to damage the company's fresh start. They argue that raising a fuss over one blinking light is going to ruin morale, but Maya is ready for this. As she places her proof map right beside the official facilities explanation, going page by page, timestamp by timestamp, she completely dismantles that argument. Her stance is clear. Truth is not damage, hiding it was. Investigating anomalies doesn't harm the company, it actively protects the company from internal sabotage. It's a massive paradigm shift. The executives realize they can't argue with timestamps, and as you'll see, the stronger and more undeniable the record becomes, the quieter the excuses become. That leads us to Section 4, designing systemic repair. Because catching the lie isn't enough, you have to fix the machine. Once the truth is finally out on the table, the natural corporate instinct is to offer a quiet, private apology, fix the single broken file, and sweep the whole ordeal under the rug to make the executives comfortable again. But the audit team knows that a private fix leaves future employees entirely exposed. They demand a permanent structural solution. Enter independent board member Elise, who institutes a brilliant new protocol that forces every single future change to the system to leave massive, visible footprints. She breaks it down into 3 mandatory steps. Step 1, a public reason code is now strictly required for any changes made to the memory wall. You can't just move a file, you have to state exactly why. Step 2, the exact owner's name must be permanently attached to the action. No more hiding behind generic admin credentials. Step 3, a trust committee countersignature is mandated for archiving. This means there are absolutely no more quiet, unilateral workflow downgrades. This new, rigorous protocol is driven by a profound piece of leadership philosophy from Elise. Do not quietly fix what can publicly teach. This is arguably the most important takeaway from the entire case study. By writing the lesson directly into the software architecture and the daily workflow, the team ensures that accountability outlives this single meeting. They don't just punish the bad actors today, they make it systematically harder for the wrong people to start their toxic habits all over again tomorrow. A truly repaired workplace isn't some magical utopia without conflict. No, a repaired workplace is one where conflict, errors, and system changes are systematically forced to leave an unerasable record. You bake the transparency right into the process itself. We wrap up our explainer today with this incredible, lingering thought regarding the blinking light that started it all. The record did not raise its voice. It simply waited for someone patient enough to read it. I absolutely love this because it grounds the whole story. The truth didn't require some explosive, cinematic hacking sequence. It didn't require a dramatic shouting match in a glass boardroom. It just required professionals who were patient enough to look at the metadata, map the chronological sequence, and flat out refuse to accept the sanitized corporate excuse. True safety in the workplace finally arrives when the truth no longer needs a hero's permission to appear. It just needs a functioning system to protect it. As you reflect on this case study, I want you to look at your own corporate environment, your own workflows, and your own team dynamics. I want to leave you with this final provocative question. Are you relying on brave, exhausted people to constantly rescue the truth in your office? Or are you actively building systems that make it physically impossible for the truth to hide? Do your records truly have a voice, or are you just one convenient display sync issue away from losing your company's memory entirely? It's a lot to think about for sure. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. And remember, always read the fine print and keep asking the right questions.